In this video, we'll be testing this Coleman Sundome 6-person darkroom tent for its ease of setup, takedown spaciousness, comfort, darkroom feature, and more. I bought this Coleman Darkroom tent from Amazon. Here's what the packaging looks like, and here's what it looks like out of the box. Inside the package, I got this carry bag, poles in a carry case, stakes in another carry case, a foot mat, and of course the green rain flag and the tent body right here. I put affiliate links below if you want to check it out. To set up this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent, first lay the tent body on the ground, then grab the two longest fiberglass poles and insert them into the two green pole sleeves at the center of the tent. Then prop one of the poles up first by securing both ends of the pole into these pins, one at each corner of the tent. Do the same with the other pole, adjust the pole sleeves until the tent looks more centered, then attach all the 8 pole clips around the tent body. Next, grab the last fiberglass pole, which has black tips at both ends of the pole. This is to be inserted right down the center of the rain flag to be secured with these small pockets at each end as well as 2 Velcro strips. Then, drape the rain flag over the tent. Position the rain flag pole with one end over the door at the front of the tent, like so. Secure the rain flag using these 4 S-hooks of the rain flag to the 4 rings at the corners of the tent. After that, stake down the entire tent with 4 stakes at the 4 corners and also 1 more stake under the door, so 5 stakes in total. Also, guy out the entire tent with these 6 pre-attached guy lines. When I set up this Coleman Sundome 6-person darkroom tent on my own, it took me about 11.5 minutes for the entire setup, and here's a time lapse of it. Taking down the Sundome 6-person darkroom tent is just the opposite of the setup, and it took me about 10 minutes for the entire takedown and pack up. And here's another time lapse for that. For more details on the setup, takedown, and pack up, as well as tips on how I set this up on my own, I have this separate video on my channel. The peak height in this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent is about 73 inches, and I can stand upright here no problem, with plenty of headroom left. I'm also able to stand upright on thick air mattresses with headroom left over. But this is a dome-shaped tent, so the peak height is only at the center. When I take 3 tiny steps back, my head would touch the top of the tent, right here. The rest of the tent slopes downwards too. The length inside this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent is about 9 feet and 9 inches, and the width is also 9 feet and 9 inches, so each about 3 inches smaller than the marketed dimensions of 10 by 10 feet. But I could still easily fit 6 regular sleeping pads inside the tent, and here's what having 6 pads looks like. You do have to sleep shoulder to shoulder, but there's still this small space here to fit a little bit of camping gear. I think having 4 people on 2 queen-sized camping mattresses would be a much more comfortable fit, and here's what a darkroom tent looks like with these 2 queen beds. There's also quite a bit of leftover room for storing gear, which is always very nice to have. One of my mattresses is actually slightly smaller than a queen, which is why it fit nicely into the tent. Otherwise, the length of the tent is actually a few inches shy of being able to fit 2 queen beds. There are 2 windows in this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent, one on each length of the tent. Each window has 2 white zippers, a bug net to prevent larger bugs from getting in, and also a window latch to hold the fabric when the window is open. The window at the back measures about 43 inches in length, 24 inches in width, and it also has 3 more latches at the top of the window. I'm not super sure what it's for. Maybe it's for having more ventilation while keeping your privacy at the same time. I'm not a super big fan of this though. I just find it a lot quicker to use the zipper than to hook this up. The window at the front measures about 41 inches in length, 26 inches in width, and it's part of the single door at the front length of this darkroom Sundome tent. The door measures about 54 inches in length and 41 inches in width, so it's about twice my size. It also measures about 56 inches from the ground to the top of the door, and I'm about 5'3", so I had to duck when getting in and out of the tent through this door. This door comes with 2 latches by the side to tie the door fabric up to keep it open, and it also comes with 2 black zippers to zip it open and shut. For storage, this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent has 2 pockets inside the tent, each measuring about 9 by 7 inches. Apart from the lantern loop at the very top of the tent for some lighting in the day and also at night, there are no other loops for other storage. There's also 1 e-port at the bottom of the tent with a zippered closure. This Sundome 6-person tent comes with Coleman's darkroom technology, which is one of my favorite features. Let me show you why. First, this is what a darkroom tent looks like when the windows and door are open. And this is what the tent looks like with the windows and door closed. It's a lot darker. Maybe it's not as dark as you think it is because I have the rainfly fully guyed out, and there are two large vents here by the sides which lets in a lot of light. But compare this darkroom tint to a regular Coleman Sundome tint without the darkroom tint. There's no comparison. This is one of my other Coleman tints with the same darkroom tint and without any vents. There's only a little bit of light seeping in through the gap between the roof and the rainfly, and also from the bathtub flooring at the bottom of the tint. Second, here's a clip of me switching on a 250 lumen lantern inside the darkroom tint. The only light seeping out is from the window, the door, and the vents, and the darkroom fabric itself doesn't let any light seep out. Compare this again to a regular Sundome. It's pretty amazing. Third, let me show you the inside of the darkroom tent at night without the lantern. It is practically pitch black and amazing for sleeping. This is a clip of me zipping the window shut as well. I put this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent through some light rain and it held up really well with no leaks at all after the rain stopped 30 minutes later. The bathtub flooring seam was dry, the flooring was dry, and all the fabric inside the tent was dry. I also rain tested this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent using this water hose for heavy rain, and this is what my heavy rain test looked like. At the 30-minute mark when I stopped to check in on the tent, I noticed that the bathtub flooring seam was starting to feel very slightly damp. If you look carefully, you can see leakage through the seam right here. Also, my fingers were slightly damp from touching the seam, but there were no leaks into the tent yet. So I continued the rain test for an additional 5 minutes, and this was when I first noticed the first few drops of water into the tent, which looked like this. All the flooring and fabric inside the tent were still completely dry though, even though they were put through quite a bit of heavy rain, especially the bottommost fabric as well as the flooring. This Sundome 6-person darkroom tent doesn't have any vestibule, and the rainfly protects only the door and nothing else outside the tent. So even your footwear outside the tent will get wet in light rain. I also wanted to test for ventilation, and here's what I found. During my light rain test, I was able to leave my windows completely open and no water got inside the tent at all. And during my heavy rain test, the rainfly and this little window awning protected my window quite well. Most of the heavy rain was dripping to the sides and not the mesh of the window. After my 35-minute heavy rain test, I found that the window mesh was still completely dry. But this test happened in my yard, so there's not a whole lot of wind. So if there's lots of wind, it might blow the rain into the window and you'd have to close the mesh. Also, apart from the windows, there are also 2 vents inside this darkroom tent, spanning the entire length of the tent. These 2 vents are fully protected by the rainfly and didn't let any water in during the light rain or heavy rain test, so rainy day ventilation is pretty good. On a hot day, you can take the rainfly off from the outside for even more ventilation, because instead of 2 vents, you now get 2 mesh walls. There won't be as much privacy when the rainfly is off though. The flooring of this Sundome 6-person darkroom tent is made of polyethylene, and the bathtub feature extends up to about 7.5 inches, which is useful in light flooding. Even after 35 minutes of pouring rain, no water seeped through the flooring itself. Both the tent body and rainfly are made of polyester, and they both stayed completely dry after 35 minutes of pouring rain as well. All the seams inside the tent have not been factory taped, but those with less rainfly protection have been inverted, like this tent body to bathtub flooring seam, the vertical seams, and some of the middle seams. All the seams on the rainfly have been taped though. The seams are pretty good quality, double stitched, and consistent. There weren't any loose threads, but I did notice that some holes in the seams are a little larger than others. The mesh is just regular mesh, not no-seam mesh, and it's decent quality. The zippers are also decent quality, and all of them are catch-free. I didn't have snagging issues on the windows, and the doors didn't snag as well, but the design of this rain cover sometimes gets in the way, whether I'm zipping the door up from the inside or the outside. So I just try to hold the rain cover away when zipping it up, and it won't snag at all. All the poles are made of fiberglass and are green in color. The pole sleeves are short and snag-free, and I had no issues putting up this entire tent on my own. This Sundome 6-person darkroom tent has a packed size of 26 by 12 by 9 inches. Here's what it looks like beside a Coleman 2-person Sundome tent and a 32-ounce Nalgene bottle, and it weighs about 16.5 pounds for everything. There are so many pros to this Sundome darkroom tent, but I think the biggest one is of course the darkroom or blackout feature. Not only is it a lot darker at night and in the day as I showed you just now, it's also a lot cooler inside the tent, especially during the day. I was burning up in my other Coleman tents, but not in this darkroom tent. Another pro is that the Sundome darkroom tent is really inexpensive. I paid barely over $100 for mine. I also really liked the 6-foot peak height with plenty of headroom. I'm able to stretch my arms out, walk around the tent freely, stand up on my pads and mattresses, and basically got a lot of livable space. Setting up this 6-person Sundome darkroom tent was also really easy even though I'm not very tall. The takedown and pack up was easy as well, and I didn't even have to rip this strip at the bottom of the bag to expand the bag. On top of that, this darkroom tent also has a decent amount of ventilation and rain protection. If you found this helpful so far, please help me hit that like button, thank you, and I really appreciate it. As for cons, I was struggling to come up with cons, but I guess I do wish that they taped this seam instead of making it inverted, so it'll last longer under heavy rain, but I guess it's a pretty easy fix with some sealant. Also, for a 6-person tent, there aren't a lot of storage options with just 2 pockets and 1 lantern loop. But overall, the pros clearly outweigh the cons, and honestly, this is one of my favorite Coleman tents. Even though I didn't pay much for this tent, it's still going strong after quite a few campouts. In my opinion, it's one of the best budget tents out there, and it's also great for camping on hot summer days. But wait, before you buy anything, I compared this Coleman Sundome darkroom tent against more than 10 other Coleman tents in this video, so I highly recommend that you watch it. I'll put it up when it's ready, so do check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one.